Hey guys, this video is intended to help you understand the literature review a little bit better. I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but it might be a little bit lengthy. I just want to explain what a literature review is, first of all. A literature review is a paper written about a certain topic, and the goal of it is to research the topic as widely as you can and just present to your readers everything that the research says. All of your information in here in your paper is going to be coming from your research. You're going to say things like this source says this source says this. You're not going to be including any of your own specific analysis of that research, but you will analyze like the credibility of it and such. You will not be including any of your own opinion about the topic. Again, the focus is on the research. Your opinion will only be about the research, not the actual content within that research necessarily. This will not include an argument in any way that you have. Your thesis statement will state what the research says in an organized way. Okay, let's see here. So you've all hopefully already chosen a topic. Your research proposal is due tonight. Again, just to reiterate what this assignment sheet says, the topic you choose can be absolutely anything. I do not care what your topic is. The only requirement is that it needs to be something with varying perspectives. So it can't be, for example, smoking is bad for you. There are not varying perspectives about that. Smoking has been proven to be bad for you. No one disagrees with that, and no one else has a different perspective about that specific issue. What you could do with that same kind of topic in mind is have your topic say, or have your topic be the best ways to quit smoking, the different strategies people should use to quit smoking. And so there are varying opinions about that topic. While it's still about smoking, it's a very different topic within that larger topic. And as long as your topic has varying perspectives, varying opinions, varying viewpoints, however you want to say it, then you can choose that topic. Okay, so what I want to do now is talk about how a literature review should be written. So I'm pulling up the literature review example that you guys have located on Blackboard for you. And so I'm just going to show you what this looks like. This paper is written in APA, just like the last assignment we had. So make sure you format it just like that. Make sure that you follow the APA format handout that you guys have, and that will tell you exactly how to format it. Notice this example is missing an abstract. I have information about the fact that you should include an abstract right there. Okay, so this is where the student's paper begins. The introduction includes an introduction to the general issue. So it discusses the importance of the issue and provides any necessary background information about the issue seen here. Next, it includes a brief summary of the multiple viewpoints or perspectives on the topic. Okay, just a few things to mention about citations specifically. Notice that this is exactly how you should format an in-text citation. So it is the author's name, comma, the year, comma, the page number. Notice that this one does not have a page number. The reason for that is because this is just a summary of the entire article. And so this specific information was not found on a specific page. And so this writer could not include a page number for that information. However, if your paraphrase information is included on a specific page, then you should include the page number for that. Same thing with direct quotes. Next, in your introduction, you'll have a thesis statement. Your thesis statement should just explain what the research shows, okay? Begin your thesis statement just to ensure that you're doing it correctly with the phrase, research shows that. This writer had just a little bit before that, but that's okay. Generally, it's formatted as research shows that. Okay, so your thesis statement should present what the research says by pretty much just stating the main point sections. So you're required to have sections within this paper formatted just like this. This is a section or level 1 section heading. And so this writer has the sections process and feasibility of creating clean coal, negative effects of clean coal, and alternative energy production. Her thesis statement reflects those section topics. So I'm just going to read that. Research shows that the creation of clean coal cannot be implemented anytime soon. So that's the feasibility. That while there are positive environmental effects, so that goes along with the process as well, there are also many negative effects of clean coal, and that there are many possibilities for alternative energy production. All of her main point sections are included right here in her thesis statement, and it is written as just presenting what the research says. Notice that there is no clear argument in here. She's saying that people say there are positive and negative environmental effects, and the process is such that it can't be implemented anytime soon. And some people think that the negative effects of clean coal are so great that alternative energy production should be considered, right? So this is not any of the writer's own opinion at all. All of that information in the thesis statement and in the rest of the paper is entirely coming from her sources. Okay, let's go to the first section. Let's see. Here we have a topic sentence. So there are several ways to treat raw coal to create a less toxic product. So this is commenting on the fact that she will be talking about the process for creating clean coal. Next, and before you introduce any specific information, you need to first introduce a source that says that specific information. So she jumps right into introducing a source. So to introduce a source, you need to include the author, summary, and title. You also should evaluate the credibility of the source. She does that a little bit later in this paragraph, which is totally fine, as long as it's in here somewhere. Next, so her summary is pretty short. These authors explore one popular method known as carbon capture and storage for the process of creating clean coal. So that's a very short summary, but you're going to include more specific details from the source, and that is what she has done here. So they explain 2 different processes on how to separate the elements needed for energy production, and so on. The only problem I see here, and I just wanted to note this, I felt like she needed 2 more sentences, one for each type of different process for creating it. I think that she just could have been more specific with that. And then, so that's about the process. And then this is about the feasibility. So more specific details about the feasibility of clean coal. Okay. Moving on. So you can have a paragraph break here. So this could be a new paragraph. I think it probably should be here. But either way, she transitions to another source that discusses the same topic, as in, and what I mean by the same topic is the process and feasibility of clean coal. And that is what this section is about. So we have a source introduction again, we have a brief summary. And in that summary here, it's a little bit more detailed. So this includes the summary and the specific details relevant to the main point in this section, the process and feasibility of clean coal. And then this goes more into more specific details about the feasibility of clean coal. Okay. All of her citations are correct. There might be a couple minor errors, but I just read through this pretty quickly and they all look correct to me. So make sure you're doing your citations like hers. And once she finishes discussing those 2 articles in this section, she includes a comparison statement. and you have to have a comparison statement at the end of each section. So the comparison statement explains what the overall research says about the topic in this section. And so this comparison statement explains what the authors say about the process and feasibility of cleaning coal. It also explains how the sources differ in their opinions and or share the same opinion. So that's really important, okay? So you're kind of comparing and contrasting what they're saying about this main point, okay? Next, you'll move on to your next section. And so I haven't highlighted a bunch in this section. It should be organized a similar way as the previous section is. We have new sources here that are being introduced and summarized and pulling more specific information out of it. A couple of things to note. Make sure that you're using your APA citations handout when you write this paper. Okay, so for example, here, this source has 5 authors. And the first time you mention a source, you have to include up to 5 authors. And then every time after that, you'll use the first author's last name and then et al. Never include authors' first names or initials in your paper, and only include their initials on the reference page, okay? So for more specific information about what to do with how many ever authors you have, make sure you look at the APA citations handout. Moving on, there should be a handout in Blackboard titled How to Make a Quote Sandwich. And so you should incorporate quotes into this assignment, but you should do so sparingly. I think there are 2 or 3 in this whole paper. Most of the information from sources should be summarized, but you are required to include at least 2 quotes in this assignment, okay? Okay, so before you include a quote, you have to provide a quote introduction, which is also called a signal phrase. This introduces the information in the quote by providing context, which is anything the reader needs to know to fully understand the quote, okay? Next, the quote's given, and then after the quote is given, you have a quote conclusion. So you think of it as sandwiching the quote between an introduction and a conclusion, specifically for that quote. The quote conclusion, typically in a regular, essay with your own argument, this quote conclusion will typically be your own words / ideas that address the quote directly. However, this assignment focuses on presenting other sources and not contributing your own ideas. So this quote conclusion is a paraphrase that also comes from the source, which is acceptable for this type of paper and really this type of paper only. And then she has her comparison statement at the end there. Same deal with this section as well. And then a couple things I just want to mention. The number of sources you use per section. So you have to have at least 2 sources per section, otherwise it's not really a literature review. The goal of a literature review is to present all of the research, and if you just have 1 source per section, you're not getting varying perspectives, and that's the whole goal. So you have to have at least 2 sources per section to include enough perspectives and ensure wide research on this topic. In her paper here, the first section has 2 sources, the second section has 3 sources, and the third section has 3 sources. The organization of this literature review is as follows. The writer has used her sources in multiple sections because some of them discuss more than just one of the main points she's including. So you should do this as well and organize your paper by main point. This is the biggest mistake students make. Do not organize your paper by source, okay? Make sure you're coming up with the main ideas from each of your sources and creating main point sections for those. The literature review worksheet will help you with this immensely. If you use the same source again later in your paper in a different section, a full source introduction is not necessary. Okay, refer to your sources by author names. If you first introduce a source in section 1, and you want to, for example, use the same one in section 2, then you may also include the title of the source so that the readers are reminded of it, which may be necessary if it hasn't been mentioned in a while, but you can use your own judgment for this. So you don't always have to include the title again, but if you feel like the reader may have forgotten, if it's been a couple pages since the source was mentioned, then you may want to include the title once again. just to remind readers of that. But that is not a requirement.